If you've ever experienced a glitch in the Matrix and would like to share it with the channel, or have me read it, go to astheravendreams.com. There's a button near the center of the screen that says to submit your story to me. It's lovingly referred to as the to do so button. Just click it. And of course, thank you. This is not the first, and I'm sure it won't be the last glitch in the Matrix I've experienced. But it is the most recent, and by far the most tripped out I've had so far. I've become a bit of a hermit over the last few years. That being said, a couple of weeks ago I was a bit restless, and actually craving company, so I decided to go out for a drink or two and a game of pool. I go to the bar, order a beer and some mozzarella sticks, and I looked around. The place was kind of dead, even for 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. I put a selection of songs on the jukebox and waited to see if anyone seemed to be interested in a game. About 4 songs in, 15 minutes or so, this cute girl comes over. She must have just got there because I'm sure I would have noticed her before. She mentioned how she really loved Pucifer. The song Faraday River by them happened to be playing. We started talking and shot a couple of games of pool. I had 2 more beers and bought her a mixed drink Skittles. We talked for a bit longer and then the bartender did last call. It wasn't even midnight yet, but there were only 5 customers total in the bar, so I settled up my tab, exchanged phone numbers with her, and said I hoped to see her again. It's about 2.5 miles from the bar home, and I don't drink and drive, so I started my walk in a great mood. I'd gotten about half a mile when a car pulls up beside me. It was Heather, the girl I'd met at the bar. She asked if I would like a ride home, or maybe if I wasn't tired, I would like to continue our fun evening. I said that I really should get home, but I must admit that there was an energy that almost seemed magnetic, and said sure that I would love to continue the evening. So, we stopped by the store, grabbed a bottle of wine and some smokes and snacks, and we went to a lake about 5 miles from the place, and only about a mile from where she was staying. We threw our blanket on the ground and enjoyed a nice midnight picnic, and, well, yes, things got a bit romantic. Then she said something that I found very, very odd. I swear that I heard her say, "That was even better than I remember." She just laughed it off, and we dozed off there next to the lake, cuddling, and woke up to the pre-dawn. I asked her again what she meant when she said better than she remembered. She said it had been about 15 years, but we had met before in Portland. And like this night, we had an amazing time. I said, wait a minute, I definitely would have remembered sharing an evening like this with her. She swore to me that it was true, and how would she even know that I was in Portland 15 years ago, or the bar I used to go to where we met? Now, I told her nothing of living in Portland. I only lived there just barely over a year. And after moving to a different state, and 3 different cities in the 15 years since having moved out to this small logging town in the middle of nowhere. But she said that she could show me proof. So, we went to the cabin that she was staying in, and she dug through a box of pictures and pulled out a couple of photos of us. One of me lying on my stomach with my shirt off. I happened to have a very large tattoo on my back, along with quite a few on my arms. There was no mistaking that it was me in those photos with her, except the fact that 15 years ago, I didn't have half of those tattoos. And again, I believe that last night was the first time we had ever met. She kind of laughed it off nervously and changed the subject and asked if I was hungry. We ate breakfast and she dropped me off at my place. I was a bit tripped out, so it took me a few days before I tried calling her. I really couldn't get her out of my mind. I even stopped by her place, but it was obvious that no one was living there now. I don't know what the heck happened, but I get the feeling that maybe we're both riding the time-slip waves and catch each other on chance occasions, and what happened 15 years ago for her might still be in my future. Or maybe I belong in a mental institution. All I know is that she has definitely made it impossible for me to forget her, even if she ends up being nothing but a figment of my imagination. All I know is that, from my experience, the truth is definitely weirder than fiction. Before I read this story, I want to give a shout out to the author, Kathleen, because not only did she submit her experience, she did so and used the word of the week last week, which was murky. I'm not going to put the story on the end screen, but I'll give her a shout out in the video itself, so good job on that, Kathleen. Now for the story. My boyfriend Kenny, my 2-year-old son Jimmy, and I embarked on a road trip from New Mexico to California, headed towards my home in Los Angeles. We had recently relocated to Silver City, New Mexico, and as we set off, the darkness of the late night or early morning surrounded us. Restlessness always plagued me during car rides due to my anxiety, especially at night. However, despite my struggle, sleep managed to engulf me without any recollection of drifting off. Kenny experienced the same sensation. He must have succumbed to slumber, yet neither of us remembered stopping to rest. Abruptly, our reality underwent a bewildering transformation. The world around us morphed into this crimson murkiness, accompanied by an unsettling clamor. The car continued its motion, and both Kenny and I shared an eerie premonition that we were hurtling towards a perilous cliff. Overwhelmed by shock, I muttered only a single question. "What's happening?" Kenny's bewildered response echoed mine. "I don't know." For about half a minute, the cacophony, movement, and dust persisted until abruptly ceasing. To our astonishment, we found ourselves parked near a set of train tracks. Neither of us could recall pulling over or falling asleep. Our minds still clung to the belief that we were in the midst of driving towards the edge of a cliff. Thus unfolded this glitch in our reality. Meanwhile, my son peacefully slumbered in the back seat, blissfully unaware of the surreal experience that we had just encountered. A couple weeks ago, I was walking upstairs in my house, and I looked out the window of the second floor in the foyer. There is a large tree in the front yard that covers half of the view of the window, but you can still see the sky above the tree from the window. There is a single super bright star that is visible, and I always enjoy looking at it when I go upstairs for the night. On this night, I walked up the stairs and looked out the window, and I noticed that the tree completely covered the window so that no stars were visible. In fact, no part of the sky was visible at all. The only thing I could see was a massive tree. I thought that I must have missed something, or maybe it was cloudy and I just wasn't seeing correctly. So I walked back down the stairs again to see if I could see the star or sky from a different stair step. The tree completely covered the view no matter where I stood. All I could see were the tree leaves from the top of the window to the bottom. I thought, that's weird. I guess my tree must have suddenly grown extra tall and wide and I just didn't notice? I walked up and down the stairs 3 or 4 more times to be sure that I wasn't confused and that I wasn't somehow missing something. The tree was very tall and large, and no sky was visible at all, no matter which stair I was on. Still confused, I then went outside and looked at my tree in the front yard. I noticed it was extra tall and wide. I thought that it was odd that this was the first time I noticed how large and wide it was, but assumed maybe I just misremembered how it was. Or maybe it literally grew overnight. I chalked it all up to me being inattentive and thought that it was a bummer, that I wouldn't be able to see the stars from my window anymore. I kind of forgot about it all until the next night when I was coming up the stairs and happened to look out the window again. This time, though, the tree was back to the size that I thought it was supposed to be the day before, and was not blocking the whole window anymore. I saw the same bright star that I had always seen out of my window for the last 2 years since I moved into my new house. The leaves were no longer blocking the view. I was so confused. I walked up and down my stairs several times to see if I could have been standing somewhere else, and the tree would have blocked the view, like it had the night before. No matter where I stood, the tree never completely blocked the view of the sky from the window. I tried for about 10 minutes to find a spot on my stairs where the view I had the night before could be replicated, and I couldn't do it. Perplexed, I went outside and realized that my tree was no longer massively extra tall and wide like it was the day before. It was back to the way I'd originally thought it was. I spent so much time the first night trying to figure out why the tree blocked the sky view, and then trying to rationalize the change. I got really freaked out the next night when it was the exact opposite. I have no real explanation for this other than perhaps this was a glitch. If not in the Matrix, then maybe in my brain? I still find it pretty unsettling. Here's a bit of a mundane glitch, but a glitch all the same. One afternoon, my partner and I were driving along a dual carriageway, returning from Hertford, England, traveling east. The speed limit on this road is 70 miles per hour, and I expressed irritation at being stuck behind slow drivers doing under 50, trapping us in, unable to overtake. The culprit this time was a light blue car with rolled-up plaid and tartan blankets in the back. My partner joked, "I bet they're small and old," because most extremely slow drivers always turn out to be a tiny old person who could barely see over the wheel. As soon as I was able to overtake, sure enough, it was a little white-haired old man with an old woman in the passenger seat. "Told ya," my partner said, and we laughed. We approached a large roundabout at which we go all the way around to the right and onto another dual carriageway, south, towards London. We were held there on a red light and joked that soon those old people will catch us up. This is a roundabout where, a quarter of the way around, I need to move from the right lane into the left at the next set of traffic lights. I looked in the mirror as I did so. No slow old people around, so I assumed they had either still not caught up, or they had taken the north exit towards Cambridge. Once the lights turned green, I was off. I went around, and I came down the on-ramp onto the next dual carriageway. About 3 minutes into this journey, we came up behind a slow-moving blue car with rolled-up tartan and plaid blankets in the back. And I had to overtake these same old people again. I exclaimed confusion about this. My partner simply nervously laughed with nothing to say. It completely defied logic. To be that far ahead of us, they would have needed to have sped past us at the traffic lights. There is no other way down onto that dual carriageway, no other road that could be used as a shortcut. The exits only go north, south, or west, yet they were still going slow. How could they not only catch up with me, but overtake me unseen and result in me still needing to overtake them again due to their crawling speed? Hey, I have a second story. The story is about my cousin who asked me to submit it. When he was about 18, he was looking at universities in the west of England. My aunt drove him to an open day from their home in Bishop Stortford, Hertfordshire, to Worcester. This journey takes about 2.5 to 3 hours. They left at 9 a.m., arriving at Worcester University just before 12, and had lunch on campus. The open day consisted of a tour that began at 1 p.m., followed by a Q&A session with whoever would be running the courses you were considering, and then a chance to pick up leaflets and a goodie bag of stationery. All of this took less than 2 hours. It was about 10 to 3 when they departed, glad to be leaving early enough to beat the peak hour traffic outside Birmingham. Their journey was normal. It felt like the same amount of time as the outgoing journey. Only, upon returning, all of their clocks, both in the car and in the house, said it was just 3:30. There had been no 5 p.m. traffic jams as they had re-entered Bishop Stortford, which is a small, heavily congested town. There is no way that they could have done that journey in just 40 minutes. It's impossible. There are 2 alternative routes to Worcester, but they take more than 3 hours. They spend days afterwards feeling completely bewildered. I'm not on Reddit a lot, so I don't really know how to start this. But here is some context to the situation. In December of 2021, I met this girl online who happened to live in my area. We started talking, and after about a week, she came over to my house and picked me up for our first date. A few months later, in March of 2022, we officially started dating. Some key points that you need to know is as follows. Firstly, she drives a very recognizable car. It is a sunflower yellow Volkswagen Beetle with a black drop top that has silver rims. Additionally, it is a very particular shade of yellow which makes it even easier to distinguish. At the time, she had split green and black hair where the green was a mix between emerald green and pastel jade. In November of 2022, 8 months later, I broke up with her after finding out that she had been cheating on me, and we've been no contact since then. Finally, she lives about 40 minutes away from me, and has really no business being in the part of town where I live. So, this is where things get weird. A few times now, I've seen similar looking cars, and even one time a car that looked exactly like hers. However, never has it been her driving. Last week, I left my house and was maybe only a few minutes down the road. As I'm sitting at a 4-way intersection, a car comes from the right side and passes on to the left, basically cutting across the intersection perpendicular to where I was sitting. It was an exact match to her bug. Same shade of yellow, black drop top, silver rims. I look to see who's driving it, and it's a girl who looks to be about my age, with exact same split-colored hair as my ex. In the moment, I didn't think much of it besides, oh, well, there goes my ex. But the more I thought about it, the more I've been freaking myself out. Now, I've never been one to believe in superstitious things. However, this moment in particular has been on my mind quite a bit. I know in my heart that there are unexplainable things that go on, but I try not to think about it too much. The amount of coincidences that had to have taken place for me to experience what I saw feels like it's not a coincidence anymore. So, let me get this straight. You're telling me that a girl who looks exactly like my ex is driving an actual replica of my ex's car, down to the very last detail, who also happens to be driving in the direction of my house, just passed by? Yeah, I don't think so. The more I thought about it, I started to wonder if that actually was my ex. But according to all of her social media, her last post was a few days ago, her hair is completely different color than it was before. She also has put on some weight. So we've now confirmed that it was not my ex driving past me last week. I'm about to sound like a wacko, but stay with me. Every fiber in my body is telling me that I had just experienced a past version of my ex driving to meet me for the first time, and I'd experienced from an outsider's perspective. I know that sounds insane, and that I should probably take my meds, but I swear I've been thinking about it so much and it adds up. Her hair? Check. Her car? Check. Her destination? Check. Her reason for being in my part of town? Check. It all makes sense, except for the fact that parallel universes don't exist, right? I know this sounds fake as hell, and if you think so, that's alright. I just wanted to share this experience with the internet in hopes that someone could take me out of my insanity, or, rather, egg me into it. My best friend and I watch movies together all the time. Sometimes just the two of us, sometimes with our group of friends. We had watched The Amazing Spider-Man sometime after it came out, just the two of us, and we both loved it. My friend in particular liked it, telling me how much better this one was than that Tobey Maguire trash, as he puts it. When The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, we were really looking forward to it, and it seemed okay for the first third of the movie, and then things suddenly took a turn. It seemed awful to us. We remember overacting in what to us at the time seemed like really bad direction. So bad that we had to stop and look some things up. This must not be the same director. It was. Did he have a drug issue or something during the making? He didn't. We watched the rest of the movie perplexed as to how the same actors and director ended up making such a terrible movie. More than a year later, perhaps a couple of years, I don't really remember how much later it was, but we decided to watch it again and give it a second chance. It was great from beginning to end. It was like a completely different movie. Good acting and direction, scenes I don't remember, and scenes that I can almost remember not being there. My friend and I both agreed that it seemed like a completely different movie, and that we must have slipped timelines or something, and now we reside in the universe where the sequel is also a great movie. If it was just me, I would write this off as corrupted memories being colored by a mood or expectation or something. But both of us had the exact same thing happen. The movie seemed to change for the both of us. To this day, we both cannot get over it, and we're on the lookout for things changing in movies that we've seen before. So far, nothing else except the classic Mandela effects other people also report. Like C-3PO's leg suddenly changing colors. When my children were younger, I rarely got any time to myself. One weekend morning, I woke early and decided to go downstairs and have a peaceful coffee. I grabbed my phone from the bedside table and quietly made my way to the kitchen. I started the coffee and decided to flip through my phone while I waited. I couldn't find it. I looked around the kitchen and living room and thought that I must have left it upstairs, but I didn't want to go back up and wake anyone, so I left it. I made my coffee and looked at the jigsaw on the kitchen table that I had finished the night before. It had one piece missing, and I searched for it unsuccessfully before going to bed. I groaned at how annoying it was, and went into the living room to watch the news on TV. I couldn't find the remote control. I put my coffee on the coffee table and got down and looked under the sofa, and then I pulled up the seat cushions and checked under them. Then I looked everywhere else. Nothing. I finished my coffee in silence and went back into the kitchen with my mug. I said out loud, "Okay, the joke's over. Put my things back." I rinsed the mug and went back to the living room. There, on the sofa, exactly where I had been sitting drinking my coffee, was my phone, the TV remote, and the jigsaw piece, all in a row, on the seat. I whispered thank you because I didn't know what else to do. My keys disappeared and then reappeared like nothing was wrong. This happened last week, and I know how it sounds, and you could easily dismiss this as I just misplaced them for a while, but it felt like so much more than that, and it just didn't make sense. To get a sense of the place that I live, it's on the 3rd floor, and for access you need a key for the gate on the 2nd floor. It's a small individual apartment, and there's 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and then the kitchen and living area. So it's a small place with just the basics. It was just a regular evening. I was waiting for a friend of mine to come because I was lending him my camera for work. When he arrived, I grabbed the camera and was reaching for the keys and noticed they're not in their place. Like a lot of people, I have a particular spot where I leave them. I thought to myself, well, maybe I left them on the sofa. At first glance, they're not there. I clean up the sofa, and nothing. Now, this sofa is a cheap one. There's no cracks where your stuff could fall in. I look in the kitchen, my bedroom, and I can't find them. The more time passes, I start to feel very uneasy. I'm getting this weird headache, and feeling just general weirdness. My friend's been waiting for like 20 minutes, and my neighbor comes so I can take the chance to go out and give my friend the camera so he can go. I go back to my apartment and turn everything upside down. I moved the fridge, the stove, undid my bed, the pillows, crawled around the whole floor checking under everything. I double-checked everything that I checked. I even checked to see if I somehow left them stuck to the door. They were nowhere to be found. I thought that I was losing my mind. It felt like I was going crazy. The headache wasn't going away, and I felt like I was losing balance. Finally, I said, I need to calm down and just rest for a moment. I took a pillow and laid on the sofa, and I fell asleep for like 15 minutes. When I got up, my headache was gone. I moved the pillow and heard the sound of the keys. I quickly lifted the pillow, and they were there. It was as if they were there the whole time, and I just somehow didn't see them. Of course, this made no sense to me, and I can't explain what happened without sounding crazy. Did my keys glitch to another place and then come back to me? I just feel like I need to share this somewhere so I don't feel like it's stuck with me. Hello. I listen to your show often, and the glitch stories are my favorite. I knew that this is where I would share my experiences. I'll start with the one that shook me the most. These incidents started in 2020. I was staying in a 1-bedroom apartment with my 2 kids. The kids had the room, I had the sofa bed in the living room. Very small apartment, as I was coping with COVID lockdown and work from home times being a single parent. It was tough, but we were happy. The living room wall was the other side of my kids' room. One early morning at around 2 a.m., I heard my daughter laughing and trying to whisper, "No, no, no. Ah, really?" Like she does when she gets too involved in whatever video game she was playing at the time. My concern was her being up so late. I went to go reprimand her and she was asleep. Like, deep sleep. and all of her devices were on the floor or their room desk charging. I know my kids. I know when they're faking, and she was asleep. I brushed it off and went to lie back down myself. The next time, maybe about 2 weeks later, I was woken up by the sound of my son waking up. He was 6 at the time, and he has autism. His comfort is to rock back and forth while sitting when he's happy or excited. When he wakes up, he either turns on the TV, plays on his Nintendo Switch, his tablet, or comes to get me. I thought to myself as I listened to him rocking on the bed, shoot, I forgot to charge his tablet and his Switch. And was thinking how, as a mom, I had dropped the ball. I heard him getting frustrated trying to turn on his Switch, and I hear him banging it on the bed. Nothing new. I yell out, "Stop banging the Switch, I'll charge it." I get up to soothe him, and he is deep asleep. The Nintendo Switch was on the other side of the room. He was still under the covers asleep. Now, I couldn't pretend that this did not happen. The sound of him woke me out of my sleep. As I was wide awake, I could hear him rocking. I heard the sound of him attaching the controllers to the Nintendo. I heard him banging it, and I heard his angry expressions. I plugged in his Nintendo so it would be charged when he actually woke up and sat down staring at the wall. This happened 2 more times in the same apartment. I would wake up to the sound of my kids laughing or talking, only to find them asleep. I share a wall with several neighbors. Only one has children, but they were older. Every parent knows the sound of their child. I heard my children all those times. I know how they laugh, I know how they sigh. I moved 2 years later, and so far it has never happened again. Now, I don't know if I was hearing different timelines, just a glitch, I don't know. But I would love to know what that was. My friend and I see the same doctor, so we ride together. It takes approximately 2 hours to get there. On a stretch of highway between my house and the city where we hit the interstate, we get behind a very slow driver. My friend didn't have the opportunity to pass the slow-moving truck and was getting worried about being late for our appointment. I tell her not to worry and that we'll make it with time to spare. It takes about 45 minutes from my house to the interstate. We reach the exit and she tells me to look at the time. We made it in 13 minutes, which is absolutely not possible. We both kind of freaked out. We hit the interstate and head to our appointment, and we made it to the doctor's office with an hour to spare, which would have been impossible. We then realized that neither one of us remembers a very long stretch of the interstate that we hate to go through. It gets crazier. Before we left my house, she borrowed a pair of earrings from me that were silver, as she hates gold. On the way back home, I glanced over at her, and the earrings are now gold. I didn't say anything because it really messed with me. We got back to our town and she dropped me off and said that she would be back with my medication. When she returned, she looked like she was in shock. She asked me if I had noticed that the earrings were now gold. I told her that I had noticed earlier on the way home, but couldn't believe what I was seeing, so I didn't say anything. This happened months ago, and we still get really creeped out whenever we talk about that day. I tell her that this is not the first time that I have experienced a glitch in the Matrix, but it still freaks me out every time. This happened to me yesterday. I noticed that one of my many pictures had become detached from what it was stuck to, so I decided to change the blue tack. This I did noticing that 1 or 2 were loose, so I changed them as well. I then slid the poster holder back over the top, only to see some of the pictures had come loose again. So, off came the holder and with it the removable hook, which I took and laid on the arm of the chair. It promptly fell off onto the floor. I heard the damn thing land. After resticking the pictures, I looked for the hook on the floor, and it's not there. Now, I'm in an area of about 3 foot squared, and it couldn't have gone far. I moved the chair, the table, the boxes behind the chair, and I've hoovered knowing the hook is too big to be sucked up. It's not there. You can't miss a plastic hook with a green tie on a red carpet. And, as I said, I'm still looking for it. My fiancée has a bag that she brings to and from work with her computer. She decided to do some overtime, so she asked me to grab the computer and set it up. I said okay and did as she asked. I couldn't find the mouse. I looked in every crevice of the bag, and when I brought it up, she was confused as well, as she very well remembered putting it all away. She also checked the bag with no luck. We looked in our small apartment and couldn't find it. She said whatever and just did her work. The next day, she asked me to grab some chapstick out of her bag, and lying in the bag in the big zipper pocket was, you guessed it, the mouse. I know that she wouldn't have pranked me or something, because it's so random, and she's not like that. I've recently really been into glitches, and I thought about one happening to me, and, well, I guess it happened. So that, my friends, was this week's Glitch in the Matrix collection, a collection of stories that are weird, strange, bizarre, odd, awkward, and any other synonym for weird that you can think of that I can't. I just started rambling the words, and it didn't, it hit a hard wall right there, so definitely some strange stories today, some strange stories this week. Quite a few missing object stories. I try to avoid them to some extent, just because they do seem to repeat, but we had quite a few this week, and I don't mind. All of them were submitted, I believe. I may be incorrect on that, but I believe they were, and that's totally fine. I have no problem reading them and using them in a video, mostly because they are the most common glitch that I've seen happen, and even though they're common, they're still very strange and kind of creepy. Just the creepy in the sense that it's just annoying, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to explain why I find them creepy. Maybe I'm just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Do love me some Cocoa Puffs, but in my opinion, the disappearing object stories, they're always strange. So, anyways, I don't know why I'm rambling still. Hopefully you all enjoyed this collection of stories. If you did, please consider hitting that thumbs up button. I would really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, I would love it if you would subscribe if you enjoyed the content, that is. If not, well then, I mean, it's up to you. You can also do things like join memberships or Patreon, where you get early access to content like this, or stuff like this, other stuff like this, other stuff not like this. What am I trying to say? Other stuff that is not just early access, etc., 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 etc. Anyways. Forgot where I was going. My brain is frazzled, apparently. You can also... Let's just move on to the word of the week. Anyways, last week, the word of the week was murky, I think. My memory's a bit murky, you know. Anyways, several of you, on the screen now, left me comments with the word of the week. And all of you are amazing. If you left a comment, as stated, it is on the screen. If you did not, that is totally okay. I never expect anyone to do so, but I am more than appreciative that some people choose to follow through with this, because it makes it fun for me to keep doing it. So thank you to each and every single one of you who left their comments last week. And again, if you didn't get around to it, that's totally okay. Now, this week, the word of the week is encompass. ENCOMPASS. It means to form a circle or ring around, to encircle, or to enclose an envelope, or to have as part of something larger, or to be included, basically. So, encompass is one of those words that I like. I like the word encompass. So, use it in a sentence, get your comment screenshotted on the screen next week. Yeah. Anyways, friends, I hope I do see you again here very soon. But until then, remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are important. You're the best you that you can be. Never let anyone tell you otherwise, and please don't forget it. And until next time, much love, and sleep well.